Alright, so in this video we're going to be talking about a complete breakdown of different projects. I'm going to be talking about that, and the project will be a live project I'm going to be breaking down. I'll be talking about 50 different visual scripting nodes that we're going to be using in Godot visual scripting. So if you are someone that is actually using Godot visual scripting, this is actually something that you want to be able to watch through, so that you can be able to actually see different aspects. Okay, you want to be able to see different aspects of visual scripting and the nodes and what you can be able to use them for. So I'm going to be talking about that in details, and probably I will later have still do a review of a faster version of the video. So, but for now we're going to be talking about visual scripting, different nodes and how they are used. So this is a project. If you look at this project, this is the Ledger of Ikemba. You will actually see this project is on my itch.io, and it's free for anybody that wants to be able to use it. So now I have this project, and I'm going to just go to my Orchestrator. Currently in this project, what I use for this project is Orchestrator 2.0.1, and I'm in this particular one I developed it in Godot 4.3, but if you learn it here, you can actually use it in 4.7 or any other version of the Orchestrator add-on. So right here, I'm going to just start from the beginning parts. I'm just going to introduce you in case this is the first time you're actually using the Godot visual scripting. So this is Godot, and I'm not going to go into this interface. I'm just going to go straight into the Orchestrator interface. So if you are using Godot for the first time, I have videos on how to use Godot. You can actually check my channel for that, or probably maybe later I'll put that in the links. So right here I have the Orchestrator screen here. So if you have it, you have your file, so you can create new orchestration, and you see your basic close, open, and save different types of add-ons, or scripts. You can be able to actually create them here. And now you can also go over here. You see that you have all your scripts that you have created. So these are all the scripts I created for this particular project. And here you have other ones. So if you look at here, if you go over here, you see your Orchestrator panel. So you can turn off this is your Orchestrator panel, this one here, and you can bring it back, and also you can be able to turn this one off. So if you want to be able to have more room to be able to work. So, but if you want to expand everything, you can just click here and expand it. So now let's talk about different nodes. So I'm going to right click here now and show you a few things here so you actually see. So when you right click in this version, you see that you have several nodes. So you look at all the nodes that we actually have. They're not arranged in the way that the other one is arranged. So you actually see that almost everything is actually packed up here. So in this particular one, let me start with the first one. I'm going to start with the first thing here. I have my ready event. So the ready event is actually a particular node that is used. It's just more like a function. So if you actually, let me go over here so you actually see what is happening. Let me go over and bring in my component. So if you look at here, you have an event graph, and this is actually a function. So this function is actually a ready-made function that comes with Godot. So this function is used whenever you want to, let's say for example, you want to start a game and have something just do immediately. For example, maybe you want to set the value of your maybe your points, maybe the points for the game, you want to set it back to 0. You can use this to do that. So if you look at here, what I did here was to set the music. This is a sound. So I was able to use this ready event to be able to set that. So the ready event is actually a function for making sure that once a particular thing happens, or maybe whenever the game starts, or whenever that particular scene starts, that the thing that is being hooked to will begin to play immediately. So if it's setting a value, you set the value. If it is setting the audio to play, you actually do that. So if you want to bring that out, you can simply just click here. So this is your function, this is your function, these are your variables, and these are your signals, your custom signals. So I can click up here and just do ready, and it's coming. I think it's hanging a bit, so let me just not do it from here. Okay, we already have ready here, so it's not going to actually show us that ready any longer. So but by default, the ready, if you just click here, you can be able to actually get the ready function and actually get that. In the latest versions, you can right click and actually get the ready function from here if you actually use the latest versions of Godot Orchestrator. Now here I have this node. This is actually not this is more like a property node. It's not like a proper the main nodes that we actually have. Is more like a property node. This thing was actually brought in from the player. So if you look at here, if I select my audio stream player now, this is my audio stream player from the scene tree. So if you select it, you can be able to actually go over to this place and you have your playing. So look at here, we'll have the playing. So you can click and drag this into this place and set it. So one of the things you have to understand about Godot visual scripting is that almost everything that you see on your screen is, programmable. So you can actually drag something from here and drop it inside here and actually get the path to it. So you can literally get things from different places. You can actually drag something from here and drop it here, and it will get the scene for that particular one. So just know that almost everything you are working with, especially in the inspector, almost everything, not all the 10, all of them, but almost every single thing. Look at here, you can drag in something from here and just drop it here. So those are the things. So these are more like the properties that we can be able to actually code. So, but I'll be talking about more on the main nodes that we actually need. So that's already event here. Now let me bring this out. I'm just going to start from the beginning. So here we'll have the event for but this is a signal function. So this was actually created for this particular, if you look at here, on bridge detector body entered. So in this particular place, I use an area body 3D to detect a particular body. So this thing is created. Let me just go down and show you. So this is the liter. So there is actually an object that is actually here. Let me see. You look at it here, something here. So whenever something touches it, so it's used to delete these bridges, because the way I programmed this, if you have watched my breakdown of this game, I did a separate video where I broke down this game and how I made it. So this is actually spawning continuously. So once it spawns, once it touches this particular area body 3D, it's going to just delete it from the screen, like it just disappears. That's the key. So but this character is just running on one spot. That's how I was able to create the illusion of the continuous movements of the player. I didn't want it to keep going. I wanted to run at the spot and have my spawning to be able to do that. So now that's what I did with this area body 3D, so that I could be able to actually delete something whenever it touches a particular thing. So let me see if I have it here. Let me see. I think it should be on the. Let me see where this one this. Okay, let me just go into the orchestrator. So basically, this particular thing is was created by selecting an area body 3D. I'm trying to get an area body 3D so you actually see how it was created. So these ones are static body, so it's not going to be here. So let me go to the bridges. So if you go to the bridge and look at the bridge here, that's the area body 3D that I actually used to connect. So the area body 3D now, if you actually go to the inspector, okay, and let me see here, I'm looking for my signal. So look at my signal here. If you look at here, this is the bridge detector here. So all you need to do is just to simply select the body entered. So the body entered is like a signal, and the signals are simply a sort of a code that ignites another code. So when you actually send a signal, the signal will actually be able to send a particular signal to a particular code, or a set of codes, like a function that is triggered by something. So it means that whenever a body touches that particular, once this bridge touches a particular body, all right, then it's going to start the signal, and that thing, whatever is in that signal, will be executed. So what I just did was to select here and click on connect, and if you look at here, I'm connecting to this script that is up here. So this script is, you have to actually have a script in that particular scene. So just once you connect it, and then you just connect. Once you connect it, so what I now did here was that I had to connect different things here. So if you come back here, you see that I told you something. I'm going to expand this a bit so you see what's happening. So I told you that when this signal is, whenever this body touches something, whenever a body touches this thing, okay, this particular bridge, it should do something. So what is it going to do? So now let me tell you the next node. The next node we're going to talk about is the call is in group. So call is in group is like a particular node. It's more like call it more like a method that actually checks whether a particular object that is in a particular group touched that, or you're just trying to check it. So for example, now here I'm going to right click, and if you look at here, if you type is in group, you actually see that's the is in group there. You can actually just get it from here and insert it into your code. Now what it's checking for here is that I've plugged it into this place, and then check the body, plugged it, that's the target. It's actually targeting this body, which is whenever it's touched. Then I'm checking for the group. So this group, I have a group called deleter bridge. So deleter bridge is like that object I created inside a 3D, inside a main scene that is at the back of the scene. So whenever the bridge touches it, it will detect that that particular one is in this group. So how did I do that? If you actually go over here to the scene, you will see that you have your bridge deleter, and it has the, if you go to your groups, it's actually in the group, okay, deleter. Let me see the one that has it. Okay, look at the one that has it here. Look at here. So you have the deleter here. So I'm trying to explain why these things are there, so you actually understand how you work, so you understand the code too. So over here now you have the is in group. So the is in group is actually checking for a particular group. So it's checking if this particular body touches this person, okay, and that particular body that it touched is in this group. If it's not in the group, it will not do anything, but if it's in the group, then it's going to actually do something. That's actually what it's going to do. So this, you use it whenever you want to make sure that a particular group is the thing you touch. So if you're using it in like in a game where maybe you want, whenever a body touches the player, all right, it will trigger the game over screen. So you come in here and put the player or the player here. So that's how this is actually used. So that's called is in group. That's why it's there. Then the next node is called the branch. So the branch is actually a node that is used for, it's more like the if statement of visual scripting. So the if statement is more like you say, if this happens, then do this. But if it doesn't happen, then do that. So that's what we call the branch here. So if you look at here, you see you have your branch. So the condition is if the group is in this, and the condition is this deleted, as this boolean you are seeing here. It makes sure that if this is actually the thing that is selected, that's if it's touching this particular bridge, that's the condition, all right? Then what should it do? So if it is true, it should do something, but if it is not true, then this is what it's going to do. So imagine if I wanted it not to do anything, or maybe I want it to do something completely different, then I will put that for the false. So this is actually if. So whenever you're looking for an if statement inside Godot Visual Scripting, just know that um, it's actually the branch that we actually use for that thing. Okay, so now the branch is this. Okay, so other things you're going to be using is the delay. So we'll have also the node called delay. So the delay is simply normally we use timer nodes to be able to actually control time. But when you don't want to use a timer node, you can be able to use a delay. Maybe you want something to happen. So what I literally did here was that whenever the bridge touches that particular body that is in this group, it will check it. If it is true, it's going to wait for 1 second. So this is the time is actually in seconds. So you want to make it 5 seconds or however time you want to make it, you can do that. So I have this time here for 1 second, and then this for delaying. Okay, so you can actually put this here, and then you can be able to now. The next node is cure free. So cure free is actually a node for deleting something. So for example, you have a particular node that you want to delete. Let's say you pick up a coin and you want that coin to disappear and immediately it's picked up. Okay, that's what you use your call queue free. So if you actually type and you put queue free, so that will queue free. So look at that there. You can actually be able to get it. And the reason why I'm doing this is that some of the nodes you don't get them directly by just right clicking and typing. Some of them you have to drag them out from somewhere. Some of them you have to drag them out from an existing node. That's how visual scripting works. So that's queue free for deleting things. So if you want to delete a coin that you picked up, or maybe an enemy that was destroyed, use queue free, the call queue free. That's what you can be able to use to delete it from the screen. So then you have here the physics process. Now the physics process, I'm not doing this in the hierarchy of it. I'm just doing this in a way that you will see practical uses of these nodes, so it makes a bit more sense to you. So if you're using visual scripting for the first time, it's going to be very easy for you to understand. So we'll have the physics process. So physics process is simply a function, an inbuilt function that comes with Godot, Orchestrator visual scripting. So it's more like it's used for triggering actions that has to do with timing. For example, your movement, your jumps, gravity, and that has to do with real time, tracking your time. So anything like movement and all those things, those are the things you use this. If not, you would have used process. Process you can use to upgrade your time, or sorry, not your time, or upgrade things like your points. Maybe you want whenever you pick up a coin, the point will increase. You can actually do that with the process. But when you have things like movement, if you look at here, I use it to move that particular bridge. So you have here. So once the time starts, it follows the time and it begins to actually move that particular thing. So whenever you're doing anything, movement, jump, gravity, use the physics process, it will be the best option that you're going to use. Then I have my call translate. So this translate is more like you right click here and you type translate, and depending on the node you're actually using. So I have here my call translate. It's more like a function, okay, or you can call it a method. So this node is used for making things to move. So you can actually make things to move. Maybe a box you want to move, you can be able to use this to translate it. That's the basic way you can be able to do that. I usually use this most times when I'm trying to move my character or move an object. So that's translate. So if you look at here, it has the axis. So if you are trying to work with 2D games, if you get it, you actually see the 2D version of it. So if I translate now, you see that translate. I have the 3D here. You can't see the 2D because I'm working in a 3D scene. Okay, let me see. I think I have something here, but it's not really the main one. So the reason why it's doing it is because I'm working in a 3D scene and you might not be able to see that translate here. So, but once you're working in the 3D scene, you actually see the different axis. So the X, Y, and the Z axis. So you can be able to select the one that works for you. So now let's go into the next one, the bridge spawner. So I'm not going to be repeating if I've used a particular node before. We have talked about the ready node. So let's talk about the while loop. So the while loop is another type of flow, okay, or flow code. So if you actually look at here, let me just go over here and let me get a branch so you see what is happening. So we'll have the flow controls. So let me just type flow controls and you see what is happening. So if you actually go to flow control, you see you have your branch for if statement, you have your chance, delay. These things are for controlling how the code flows. So if you look at here now, I have my while loop. So the while loop is more like a loop in coding where you see your while this happens. If you have programmed with C, you actually know that you have the while loop where you say while this is true, then this has to happen. So it means that whenever that particular thing is no longer true, then it should stop. So once you put this here, I use this when I want to create an infinite loop. I want something to keep doing again and again. So there are two ways to do this. Either you use a time node, a timer node from your Godot scene tree, and just set it to to keep on auto starting itself. You can use that, or you can simply use a while loop. So this while loop now, once I add it and I turn on this condition, means that it keeps on going again and again all the time. Except I go in here and say I want a condition. I will say while maybe a particular value, maybe a variable is equal to a particular value, then it should keep on going. But once it's not that value, then it should stop. So but this one I did here is simply this while loop is infinite. It's an infinite while loop. So I use it to be able to make the bridge. If you look at this, the name of this particular code is called bridge spawner. So I told it once this game starts, once it's ready, this bridge should keep on spawning continuously. Don't stop. So you just won't want it to stop. You just want it to keep going continuously. Then we already have the delay, and now we'll have what we call the instantiate scene. So instantiate scene is actually a node for instantiating things. So you can use it to instantiate an object. You can use it to instantiate a new screen. If you want to switch between screens, let's say for example you want to switch from the start screen to the main screen, this is actually what you actually use. So all you need to do is just you right click and you get your instance. Now let me see if you can get it directly from here. So look at that instance, you can put that here. Now what you can do is that you can assign directly from here, or you can actually get the resource file and just connect it. But let me just do it from here. So I can say I want this to be connected to, let me see what I'm going to put here. Let's say to my cut screen. If I put it on my cut screen, means that whenever this guy waits for 1 second or 1.8 seconds, it's going to create this my cut screen. It's just going to produce it. So that's what this one does. So I'm just going to delete that. So this is a use case for this one. So I'm using it here to spawn an object. So this particular node is instantiating another scene. So that's what it's actually doing. It's creating a new version of it each time. After every 1 second, it will create a new version of it. So once it creates it, it's going to make it to be add child. So this add child node is used for spawning, like creating a new version of something inside another scene. So we already have the main scene, and then I'm instantiating the spirit bridge. That's what I call that scene. That bridge keeps on creating itself and moving. Each time it comes out, it moves. So that's how you create the illusion of the movement. So if you look at here right now, you can be able to actually see, to be able to get this, you have to drag it from here. So you can't, if you right click and type add child, in this version you won't see it. I think in the latest version you will see that add child. So if you just type add child, then you can see it from here. But if you don't do that, if you just right click and type add child, you won't see anything. Okay, you actually see it there. Wait, let me be sure. Okay, the reason why I usually like doing it is just that it will give you the actual place you are going to actually put it. So if you do it like this, add child, so just drop it, immediately it will fix it for you. So because sometimes if you're using this for the first time, you don't even know if you should put it in this node or this one. All right, so automatically just fixes it for you, and then you can just fix this one to come and fix up here, and that's how you get your add child, and it's working correctly. So just mind you that this add child is for creating new version, adding the new version inside the scene. So each time after a particular second, it's going to be creating a new version of the bridge, and that's how the bridge keeps on, spawning and continuously moving towards the player, and you have that illusion of the person running on the bridge. Then this is another long one, so let's talk about this. Like I said when I talked about the physics process, if you want to do anything movement, your physics process is what you're going to be using to make things to move. All right. There are other ways of being able to code your movement, but I like using this particular scene. It's easier for me to comprehend and work with. So especially if you're doing very simple movements, this will actually be very good for you. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is a sequence. So the sequence is a node for creating a sequence where you want to have a multiple options that will be selected from. All right. They can be able to be going from the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, or it could be triggered whenever you press a button or something happens. So that's what the sequence is used for. It still controls the flow of the code or the program. So if you right click, you can actually get your sequence. So that's your sequence. You can actually get it under the flow control. You can add it, and once you add it, you can actually click on this plus sign to create more. It comes usually with one or two of them, and then you can add more. So over here now, I've added a set parameter here. So this particular thing I see here is for my blend. I'm using this to blend my animation. So like I said in the beginning, that most of the nodes you're going to be using inside Visual Scripting, some of them are properties from an existing node. Now mind you, there is the Godot nodes. Okay, the nodes that comes with Godot. So let me just what we call the scene nodes. So these are the scene nodes. So you have the not UI, sorry, let me use that. The OmniLight nodes. Okay, so all these things you create now, if you right click and you say add a child node. So these are the Godot scene nodes. But then here you now have the Godot visual scripting nodes. So each of the scene nodes that you actually have can have, if you go to inspector, you can have properties also. These properties can also be turned into nodes, and that's what we use to actually get this. So let me see, this is Ikemba. So let me go to the main scene and see if I can get this. So you see where it came from. So this one is actually for the animation. So it's more of something from this place. Let me get it. If you look at this animation tree now, if you select it and you come up here, you see you have your blend tree. So look at the blend tree here. So you have your set amount. So you can actually come in here and drag this out and just drop it in here. So you see set. So this is actually the thing there. So what we use this for is to set the amounts of the particular one that's active. So if you actually go into the game now, you actually see that in this particular player, you see it's actually stopped now. There is, if you actually go to your animation tree, we'll have the different ones. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 1, and sorry, this is 0, this is 1, and this is -1. Okay, sorry, -1, 1 and 0 and 1. That's how it is. So when the value is -1, this slide animation will be the one that is on. Let me bring this up a bit. So I want you to see where that number is actually coming from. Slide again. So if you actually see here, you see your slide animation. That's the one that you have here, the -1. And then the jump is 1. And then these other ones, see the one that is running now, is actually the +1 here. Look at here. So that's the value here. 1 is the value. So it means if I set it to 0 or -1, it's going to be doing a different animation. So what we did here was that we used that particular value to set this to 1. So it means that it's going to be running continuously. That's what we're able to do with that. So once you put this -1 here, let me expand this. So that's how we're able to get this. So this is actually a property, more like a property node that you're actually getting into your scene here. So that's how that was gotten. Now the next node I want to talk about is the action node. So if you want to have your controls, maybe a click of a button or a press of the keyboard or even your other controls in your joystick, this is actually where you get it. So if I right click now, I can get my action. And that's the input action. So this is where you actually get your control. So now if you select this, let's go back to our main scene. You actually see that you have your actions. So different actions for this, your enter key, you have different actions that you can be able to actually set here. If you have not used this before, if you actually go into your project file and settings and you go to your input, you actually see that you can create your own. So you can say, let's say slide. If I put slide now, and I add it, I can say, okay, I want this one to be controlled by a particular button. It could be a click of the button, it could be anything you want. So if I say I want it to be a click of the button, if I click, and then it's going to bring an option for me to select it. So once I do that, it's going to do that. So the key thing here is that this will determine the alphabet, okay, the control, whatever key or mouse control or anything that is controlling whatever you're doing. So this is for the controls, okay, that's what we call it action. So it picks up your action, whatever the input you actually put in, it will pick it up. So if you look at here, once it does it, you have your branch again. Remember, it's an if statement, and then you have your translate, like I said before, it controls movement. So if you want it to move in a particular direction, whenever you click a particular button, here is clicking the left, so it's moving on the x-axis, 0.05 and towards the x-axis. Now the next node that is very important is the move and slide node. So the move and slide is a very important node. Now if you are creating a game, here you have bodies that can collide with each other. For example, you have a character that is inside a room. You don't want a character to pass through the room when you're moving. Once when the character reaches the room, is going to the wall of the room is going to, the wall will obstruct him from passing through the wall. So probably he has to pass through the door. So what you do here is that once you add your collision shape to your this thing as your characters, excuse me. So once you add your collision shape to your character and also to the wall, okay, you still have to add this collide and slide to the character for it to be able to detect it. If you don't add this, even though you have collision shapes on your character and on the wall, the character will still pass through it. It will still pass through it. So it's important that you add this particular function. That's the function that reminds the character that it doesn't have to pass through the wall, that the wall is actually solid, that you shouldn't pass through the wall. So just know that. So it's a very important node. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of these nodes. They are very, very important. So we already have the same thing here. They are still the same thing here. So everything is just the same. And the other thing that is not the same is these variables that we'll have. Let's talk about the variables. So the macros is not yet active, so we'll have the variables. So variables are simply containers that store a particular value. So it makes it easy for you because sometimes going to go and create a particular value, let's say for example these values I'm putting here, it's not the best way, but the reason I was doing it is because I was working with very little codes. So if you're working with a complex code, you don't want to do this. You just want to create a variable and reuse that thing in different parts of your screen. And if you do that, whenever you want to change the gravity, if you realize that the gravity is too small or it's too big, you can just come in here and just change the value. So if you want to change the value, if you see here, click here and just make this smaller. You can be able to change the value. So you see here, and this is actually a vector 3. So and it has the minus 3. So it's actually going downwards because it's actually gravity that I actually used for this one here. So you also have the jump speed. So the speed, I made it to be an 8 in this particular one. So when it jumps, the gravity brings it down. So that's what it's actually doing here. So if you're using the latest version of the Orchestrator, it's a bit different. So you can be able to actually go over there and actually see how it works. So if you click, I think somewhere here you actually see the different list of data types you can be able to select. So that's where, like this one now, you see how it is here. It's a bit different from the latest version of the Orchestrator add-on. So just know that this is how it works and just use it. So that's your variable. So when you want to use your variable inside your this is your graph, okay? If you want to use inside your graph, all you need to do is just to grab it, click, drag it, and just drop it here. Now there are two things you could do. You can get a getter or a setter. The getter will get the value of the gravity at that moment. The setter will set the value. So if you want to change the value, you use a set. If you want to get a value so you can use it, you use a get gravity. So once you get a gravity, like something like this now, like what I did here, all right? So this one, I got the speed. That's what I used. So I used my speed to multiply. So let's talk about the multiplication here. So if you look at here, let me see if I can get the name of this. So if you look at here, we'll have a node, and this node is actually trying to get the name of the node. It's actually a vector, okay? It's actually a multiply to vector. So if you look at here, you can be able to actually use it. Let me show you here. If you right click and you get vector 3. So if you come down here, you see I have my multiply vector tree. Very important. So this will enable me to multiply an integer with a vector. So it means that the vector here is the movement in the 3 different axes. So I have this here, and it's moving 1.2, means it's moving up, because this is actually more like the jump. And I'm multiplying it with the variable that I've already created here. So remember, this variable was gotten from this place, and then you have this. So this particular one, this vector 3 multiply, is used for multiplying a value. So what it does is that it helps you to be able to increase the value, like more like multiply the movement of this. So I'm using this. This would have been just 1.2, but I'm using this variable here now to increase it. Now what it really means is that if I want to increase the jump velocity, or how high my character is jumping, I don't have to manually come over here to do that. All I need to do is I'll go to my jump speed, and I will just go over here and increase it to 3 or 4 or 5. So that will make the value, because I'm using it to multiply this vector 3D that has the ability to multiply. So once I multiply it, it's going to increase. So whenever you want to multiply the value of your vector, you can use that vector 3. Let me say it again. You just right click and you type vector 3. If it's 2 you are using, so make sure you get the 1 under integer. Look at here, integer here, all right? So you get this. If you want it to be an integer, if you want it to be a float, you can go get the 1 for the floats over here. So if you want to have, you put 3.5, 3.6, those are the things. But if you don't, if you want it to be a whole number, you can use the integer multiplying the vector 3. So that's actually what you do here. I think we have already talked about this. We have done about set playing. This for playing the music. So this is actually for playing the sound of the jump. Whenever you jump and you fall down, it will actually make the foot noise. That's what I said here. I've already talked about how to use the audio stream player and get the audio from it. So now I want to just talk about lastly the gravity. So look at the gravity. I'm going to expand this. Let me get this down. So if you look at here, I have my gravity. So I've gotten my gravity and I'm multiplying this gravity. Look at here now, I'm having something here. Now remember, the gravity that I'm using here is actually more like a vector variable, not an integer variable. It's a vector variable. So I will have to get this. So if you look at here, let's say I drag this out and put multiply. So if you look at here now, you see I have my integer. Look at it there. That's the same one that we used before. If you just get this now, so you see here now, you have this particular one. So it helps you to multiply things. So you just connect it from this physics. So this is actually what it uses to actually multiply, to check whether it's actually working in real time So once I connect it, I have my translate. So if you look at your translate here, the movement now is that it's moving. Now remember, we have this one is for the jump. So he's going to check. Oh, sorry, I didn't talk about it. So I'm going to come back to that. So we have here the translate. So translate is going to make it to be able to move downwards. This is a down movement. Remember the gravity that we did is -3, so it's moving down. So you're multiplying it by the delta of your timing, okay? So you're by your delta, and then once you multiply it, it's going to be moving downwards. And this one is just the animation of the jump animation. So and then it's going to just go down. So this is actually what is making it to go down. But this only works when it is not on the floor. Look at here. That's what we did here. So if you look at here, we'll have is on the floor. So is on the floor is a function that is used to check whether an object is actually on the floor, like it's in a place where it's not going down more. So once it's on the floor, that's when you can be able to actually this jump. That's why you have the false. That's when this jump will work. So it means that if you're on the air and you press that jump, it's not going to work. So that's the thing here. So just know that in mind. Remember I thought about the branch. So you have used the use case for the false. So when the character is not on the floor, you cannot jump. But if it's on the floor, okay, if it's on the floor, then sorry, let me say it again. If it's on the floor, that's when you can jump. That's when the gravity is going to actually work on it. So that's the thing here. So all the thing that we'll have is that call is on the floor. Once it's on the floor and you press your jump, let me look for the jump button. Where's my jump button? Okay, look at it here. So it's going to check for the branch, and this is up arrow. So once you press up, it's going to be able to actually do the jump. Look at the jump over here. So if you don't understand what this I'm saying, just know that this is actually for checking whether an object is on the floor. That's all you need to know about this particular node, this scripting node. If you want to get it, just type is on the floor. So is on floor. So that's this. It's on the floor. That's where you actually get it from. So the summary, if you want to get this project, it's actually free. You can check my channel. You see my itch.io. You can be able to see this project where you can be able to get this and study how this. I'm not going to be talking about the code in general here. I'm just trying to explain different nodes that I frequently use whenever I'm working. So now let's talk about another one. So let's talk about this node called range f range. So this particular node is used for creating a range of values. So let's say, for example, you want to be able to randomly generate values that will be used. Okay, so if you look at here, this is a while loop, so it's going to keep on doing every time, all the time. Now it's going to be delaying, but I want it to be unpredictable. So to make it unpredictable, I use this random float ring. The rand f ring means random floats. So if you right click and you get random, let me put that. So you have your random float. In fact, you have your random integer too. Random integer range. So I'm using the random float. So the random float range is going to give me a 2 range of values. So I'm telling you that between 2 and 6, just give me any range of value each time this particular code is executed. So you could give me 2 now, you give me 3 later, you give me 4 the next time. So this particular thing is used for spawning the treasures. If you look at here, the name of the script is new treasure spawner. So I wanted the treasure because in the game you are running and dodging the enemies, the enemies that are coming, but you're also picking the treasures to power up yourself. So I wanted that particular thing not to be predictable, and that's why I used it, so that it will only work after a time you can't predict. So it could work in 2 seconds, next one 3 seconds, 6 seconds. So this is just a random number. You can't predict it. All right. So if you look at here, I've already talked about instantiation. So and then you can. This one is for spawning the treasures. That treasure you keep on picking up at the beginning of that's when you're playing the game. So I've already talked about how to spawn characters or spawn objects in your scene. So this is literally the 2 codes that you actually use. But this one controls the timing, and this thing here makes it to be random, so it's not going to be Because if you remove this now, you see that it has 1 second. That means every 1 second you will be having a new spawn. I don't want that. I want it to just keep on spawning at different intervals. Now let's go for another one. So this is a very much more interesting one. So we'll have the on timer timeout. So I'm using this particular one, use a timer node. If you go to timer node, there is a signal on the timer node called timer timeout. All right, let me see if I can find it. I have to select a timer node. Let me see if I can find a timer node here. Okay, look at the timer node. So if you go to your signal, you see that the timeout, that's one of the nodes that you actually see. So when you select it and you connect it to your code, whatever code that you connect it to. So if you look at here, this is actually my countdown timer. So in the game, there is a countdown time that you are actually following. So the countdown time is more like a time that just keeps on increasing continuously or decreasing, however you want to create it. So if you look at here, this is my countdown timer, and while loop, I put my while loop, so means that it's going to keep on going again and again. This is not so important here. After assuming the writing is good, I think this is not so important. You can put a delay here, all right? So, but it's still okay. Now, if you come up here, you see you have your branch. Now, I have what we call the get scene tree. So the get scene tree is actually a particular node that is used to actually get a scene. So if you want to get a particular scene and do something to it, all right? So like I use this mainly when I want to do things like switching screen. When we talk about when we reach to place where we will be changing our screens, that's when we understand it very well, like switching from the game over screen to the player screen, or from the start screen to the main game screen. That's where you use it very well. So if you drag it here, you can do things like change scene. Look at here, change scene to file. All right, so that's the thing you use here. So but here is used to pause the entire scene that we're working on. So if you look at here, you have called is pause. So when you want to pause a game, this is actually used for pausing. So what I use here, this is a very important one. Whenever you pause the game, all right, you want to be able to also pause the countdown timer. That's what we did here. So I'm telling you that whenever this happens, okay, if this is true, it should do something. If it's false, it should do something. So if you see here now, if you look at this, I told you that if the scene has been paused, because if you actually go to pause, that is, I'm going to show you how to pause the game. It's not, the pause is not here, but it's telling this that whenever this is paused, this is actually checking for if the scene is paused. That's what this node is for. If you right click now and type pause, let me just show you this. Let me do that again. Get pause here. So if you look at here, you have your is pause. You also have set pause. So if you want to pause, you can use this set pause to actually pause the scene. Okay, there's another place I did that. So if you set this pause, but then this one is checking whether the pause is actually active. So now when it's active, you now have your delay. All right. So I'm not going to go into the details of this, but the main thing here is that it will delay 1 second and it's going to set this particular. This is actually what I use to create illusion of a pause on the timing. So it means that my life or the timer that is counting down will actually freeze. Nothing will be added and nothing will be removed from it. That's what I used for creating an illusion of my pause. Because I realized that the way I coded this, this is actually more of a technical problem. So we're not even going into that because we're just talking about the nodes. So, but the main thing here is that these things are variables, and these variables I'm getting the life, okay, and adding a value to it. So I'm adding a 0 to it and setting the value here, and then setting it to my screen. Now, if you are using the latest version of Godot, this will not work. So this is very important. If you're using the latest version of Godot Orchestrator, this will not work. If you put this here, it's going to give you an error. You have to get, I think that should be from string to var. String to var, that's what you're going to use. I don't know if it's here. Let me see. String to var. I don't think yeah. Okay, look at it there. String to var. So this particular one, var to string or string to var, one of them will be the thing you're going to use. Put in between here for it to be able to work. If you don't do this, it will not be able to pass. What is happening here is that it's passing a variable value, this variable life here, the value into the set text. This set text now is the, let me show you here, this particular life here. Look at the life here. I think it should be this particular one here. So it's going to just set it to be stable. All right. So it's taking the value. Sorry, I think that should be the number here. This particular number here. So you just set it to 0. It's not going to be making it move up or down any longer. So that's just technical stuff you can be able to know. But let's just leave that for now. More nodes that we're going to talk about. Let's talk about more nodes. I'm going to just go to nodes that we haven't talked about yet. So these ones are just nodes properties that are setting the value of a text label. If you want to set a label that has a value, you can use this set text label to do that. For example, now, like this one that you have here, you can be able to go to inspector. Let's select that, I call it authority number here. You can just drag this from here, and just drop it here and set the value. So look at it here. So that's this value. So it means that whatever is the value of this variable at this time, this variable here, whatever is the value, it will set it to that screen. That's what we use in having a countdown of our time. So if your time is going to be going on, because the way it was designed, the time keeps on increasing. The goal is that you have to stay, you have to make sure that your life is not damaged by the enemies before your life goes off completely. So that's the, it's how long, it's more like an infinite runner. So that's the thing here. So you see here the countdown increasing here. So that means the countdown is more like the, it's not a count up, so it's a countdown, so it keeps on increasing. So once the pause is removed, that's when it's false. The timer begins to increase back again. Let's talk about the treasure. Let me see if there's any one that we haven't talked about here. We have talked about all these ones. So let's talk about this set value here. So we already talked about area body or body entered and call single. So if you look at this get value here, this get value is the value of the progress bar. The progress bar, that's what it's actually used for. So the progress bar here is, let me just show you here. Go back to this. This is the progress bar here. This one that shows you your percentage of life that you actually have. So the progress bar, if you actually select it and go to your value, look at the value here. You can be able to select that. So it's more like a property node. Get a value. So it gets a value here. So that's what we use here. So we've got a value and then we'll add 5 to it. So, and once you add it, then you set back the value again. So this is the value again here. So it means that it will get this value that is 20 and then it's going to add 5 to it and set it back here and then play a sound and then make that particular thing invisible. This is actually to set something invisible. So, but I won't explain that now. So this, let me see if it's close. Let me not go into that. But the thing here is that this particular visible thing that you're seeing here is that I'm making the object, this is actually treasure. I'm making the treasure itself to become invisible. Each time the object is touched by the character, it will increase the life of the character. That's what this plus thing here, this plus 5 is doing. It will increase the life of the character, okay, and then play a sound and then become invisible and then emits. This one is for emitting a particle. If you remember the particle that if you have played the game, the Legend of Ikemba, if you have not played it, it's free. You can go to it.io and play it. Once you collect a treasure, it will actually give you this blue light. That's the emission of the particle system that we actually have. So let me see if I can see the particle here. So the particle should be somewhere here because I added it in this place. It should be on the player. So look at it here. I have my blood particle and my energy particle. So this is the energy particle, the blue one. So this is it here. And all I needed to do was to get my where is it? I'm trying to get, that's emitting. Where is my emitting? This here. So you just drag this emitting and just drop. So this will actually make the emitting. Once you check this box and connect it, it will actually make it possible that whenever it's a particular thing is triggered, you know what's triggering this is this whenever it touches a particular body. When the treasure is touches your body, that's your character. That's the character, the player. When it touches the player, it's going to emit that particular destiny, the blue particles to show that you have absorbed it, and it's going to play a sound. So if you have played the game, you understand what I'm actually talking about. So it's a very, very simple stuff. Then for the demon's call, it's the same thing. These are the enemies. So whenever the player touches the demon's call, it does the same thing. So we'll still have the same values here. So this one is just for setting the enemy. That's demon's call to become invisible. That's what I did here too. So even though it's invisible, there is something deleting them. Alright, so I have a separate code that is deleting them. So if you look at here, see the code here now. When this enters the deleter event, okay, because it's already invisible but it's still there. When it now touches the deleter event, or the deleter is this guy here. These ones at the back here. So once those particular thing touches this, these ones here. Once it touches it, it's going to check whether it's in the deleter group, and then remember the if statement is going to delete it completely from the scene. So this is how you get rid of those enemies. Whenever it passes you and you don't touch it, you just delete itself. If not, your scene will become filled with a lot of those things at the back because they're not being edited. So you have to delete them. If not, your system will begin to lag. So we already have the translate, and we already have the set playing and game over. I'm going to be talking about more nodes. So over here we'll have the game over screen. So you have here your on play again pressed event. So this is actually a button pressed thing that we actually have here. Let me go to my game over screen. My game over screen is actually a long list that I have here. It seems like my game over screen is not here. So let me just use my start screen for it. So if you look at this, if you select this button, this is actually a button, and you actually go into this place, you actually see that you have in your signal, you see you have your button pressed. So if you select this button pressed and connect it, okay, to a particular code, that's where you're going to get this idea, right? So once you connect it, you're going to have something like this. You see here, play again pressed events. So once you connect it, so over here I've told you that once you click on play again, it's going to set a pause because by default it's paused already. Remember, this one is actually game over. It's pausing it. I just made the game to actually stop. So if you want to play again, you just go over here and just play back. Alright, so once you click on it, it will make the pause to become 0. I'm going to get to the part where you pause the game. We haven't talked about that yet. So once it does that, it will set that screen, that game over screen to be visible, because once the game over, you reach your game over, your life finishes, you are entering into game over, and then you have a problem, so the entire thing will freeze. So you have to unfreeze it. So it will set the value back to 0 and then set your life back to 0. This is your time, okay? This is your time to set your time back to 0. So if you press the quit button, it will call quit. So this is another node for quitting your game. So if you want to close your game, the call quit is for quitting your game. So if you just, like I told you, you get your call your get screen. So if you right click and get your scene tree, this is your scene tree, and you just drag this out and say quit. You can actually be able to get quit. So this is actually how you create a quit button inside Godot engine, and it just quits your game completely. So these are the nodes that we use for that. Then we'll have the start game. Let me see the ones that we haven't used before. So this is another one, like I said before. You have your change scene, and then we'll have another node called get resource path. So the resource path is actually a node used to get a scene. So if you have a scene or maybe a sound or something that you want to be able to use, you can get that part. You see, it's more like a string. So the ways to get it is that you can right click and just type resource and get a resource part. Look at it there. Okay, that's one way to get it. Once you drop it here, but you still have to go and connect it. So you have to go into your inspector. Oh, mistakenly, you have to go into your inspector to actually play the entire experience. Then it's going to lag a bit because I mistakenly click on my play. So once you actually get these resource parts, if you go into your inspector, you can select the particular node you want to be able to, or the particular scene you want to be able to use. So if you look at here, I have my credit scene. That's what I actually use here. So this credit scene is actually for my credit. So that means that whenever I press my credit button, it's going to launch my credit scene immediately. So once it gets that, then you have your change scene. So briefly, I think this will actually load, and let me just wait for it. Okay, before it comes up, it's actually loading this game. So now, the thing you're going to use next is the change scene. So we have the change scene, and the change scene is actually used for changing your scene. You have your change scene from file. So if you want to change a scene from file, you just simply connect this. All right. But I said my game is trying to load. Okay, so it's taking a bit of time because this is the first time it's actually running, and I'm also online. So the game is trying to load, so but I'm going to have to exit it. So this is the line of Ikemba that I'm actually reviewing the code to teach you more about this. So I'm going to just close it. Then I have here my change to file. So this is actually used for changing the file. So if you want to change from your start screen to the main screen, this is actually what you use. So you just connect this to this place and connect that to here, and then you can use the instantiate scene. Remember I thought about the instantiate scene for spawning a character. That you can also use to spawn. You can also use it to change a scene, and it's going to go change the scene to whatever you want it to be. So I have this here. I think someone actually, okay, let's keep going. So the same thing is what we did here. All the buttons are just buttons on my start screen. So this one is for starting the game itself. This is for the storyline. If you want to read about the story, the real story of the game, you can read it from there. And this is for quitting the game, the one I just pressed. So let's talk about pause. This is another very important part of this game, the pause screen. So if you actually go to this main scene, and if you go into the 2D part of it, there's actually something that is hidden. Let me see if I can open it up. The pause scene, I made it invisible by default. Let me see if I can. Look at here, the pause holder. Look at it here. So if you open this up, this is your pause screen. So I added it overlay on top of it. That's how I did it here. So now, if you go into the code of the pause scene, so once the game starts, I call it pause. It's going to check if you press cancel, that's your escape on your keyboard, is going to immediately set the entire game to pause. I made a video on how to pause a game. You can actually check it on my channel, but if you don't know how to do that, once you set this, make sure that the entire scene, you're going to actually have to go to your entire scene. That's this particular one. Let me show you here. If you actually go back to the main scene, this one now, if you look at here, if you select this guy, if you go to the inspector and go down here, I change it to always. If you don't change it, if it's inherit, when you pause your game, you cannot play your game again. So this particular scene, this particular one, this particular place where you have it, you will have to set it to be always. Means that the product has to be always available all the time. It's not going to go dormant, even if you play, if you press pause. So that's how we're able to get it. So once you press your cancel on your keyboard, is going to pause the entire game except that one that is on always. Every other one inherits it. Everything will stop moving. The spawning will stop, the timing will stop, everything will stop. And then it will set the pause screen to become visible. That's what we did here. We got this from selecting this and just going to our node, selecting back this orchestrator, and if you go down to your I think it should be somewhere visibility, look at here, drag it in here and set visible. So that's what we did, and you just put this. So once you do that, it's going to set it visible, and you now see the, because you have pressed your escape keyboard, the entire game stops, and then the thing will start. The pause screen will actually show. So basically, this set pause is used for pausing. That's the node for pausing your game. All right. If you want to get it, you can just get it from. Let me see here. If you drag it from this get scene tree, and you get your pause. So you see here, you have your set pause. When you set your pause, you can be able to actually get that there. Then over here we'll have the play game. So when you click on the play game that is on that screen, so let me see here. Over to, okay, let's just leave it. If you click on the pause, the play game is going to set that pause now to 0. Like it's going to remove it. This is just on and this is off. And then it will set that pause screen to become invisible once more. That's actually what you do. Then over here, we'll now have the quit. So we'll have the quit already. So for quitting things. So then we'll have a cut screen. I think we already, these are just the same thing for changing scenes. So if you look at here, we didn't really have to, that instantiation is not really important. You can put it if you like, don't put it. If it's not necessary, you can use this to change your scene. So these are the things for changing your scene from one scene to another. So this is actually the cut screen for the storyline of the game. So let me see other nodes that we can talk about. I've talked about all these nodes already. So let me see other nodes. All these nodes have been talked about already. And all right, so these are the most used nodes. Okay, so this particular node here is a set position. I use this position to make it unpredictable. All right, if you look at here, I made it unpredictable for you to the spawner for the enemy. So it's going to always be spawning, but it's going to be using a different position each time. So that's what I did here. But this is just for getting position. So, but you won't understand this if you don't see the inside part of the game. So look at this illusion I created here. These are just spawners. They're actually invisible objects here. They are more like nodes 3D that I added here. They are the things that are spawning. So I made it in a way that each time one is spawning at a particular time. There are about 3 of them here. So one is spawning the enemy from here, another one here, another one there. So that's what I used for that. Now let's go into other nodes I didn't talk about. So let's talk about more of the nodes. So if you are using the latest version, you actually see how it's arranged. So other nodes, let me see. I think I might need to use the latest version for some clarity. So other nodes I want to be able to talk about is the so I have a dialogue. In fact, let me just type dialogue. So if you look at here, show message. So you have your dialogue and the choice. Okay. So I made a video on that. So if you look at this dialogue, this is actually used for creating inbuilt dialogue inside your game. So if you want to be able to build like sort of a chat between a character and another character, maybe when something touches something, all right, you can be able to use it. So this particular show dialogue, if you look at here now, this one shows who is speaking. So let's say you have discussion between 2 people, and let's say the first person is Mr. A, that's the person, and then what's the person saying? The person can say hello, and then the default scene is what you're going to be using, all right, and then you can click here and you have an option. So if the person says hello, you say what is the person going to answer. So that's where this choice comes in. Let me just type the dialogue again so you see it there. So this is the choice. So if you get a choice, so this is my choice, and you're going to connect this choice to this place. So you can say hello, and then he responds, how are you? So that could be your response. So this is used for making it visible. So if you check this, it will become visible. And then when you say, and then when he responds with this, you can actually have multiple options. And let's say I have a different answer, and the person says hello. This person can say, how are you? Or who are you? So depending on what the person answers, you can decide what you're going to answer. So you can actually have a different option. So you can have, let's say for example, and the person now says something. So if you look at here now, you have another completely different thing. So the person will now say, Mr. A will now say something completely different. So this is how you can use it. So you can create dialogue. I have a dedicated video on how to create dialogue using video scripting. So you can go there. So just know that this is for creating the dialogue itself, and then this is for the options you can select. So if you are creating a visual novel or maybe a chat within your NPC, you can use this for that. Then other ones that I use a lot is let me show you here. If you go to your flow, so I have I also use chance. If you look at chance, I rarely use chance actually. So, but it's just more like a way of being able to see, okay, the chance between two things. You can be. I'm trying to. I've not used this in a particular project, but this is actually used for creating like a chance between options. So this could be you when a particular thing happens, then this should happen. You can actually use this, okay, to determine the flow of your code. So let me right click again and show you here. Let me go back to that flow. The one I like using is you have the for loop, okay. So instead of using chance, I usually use random, okay, or select. You can use select too. So, but let me talk about the for loop. So if you look at the for loop here, just like a typical for loop in your C programming or any other programming, you have here. So if you look at here, you see you have your first index. So you can start, normally we'll start with the 0 index, which is the number 1. And then let's say, for example, I want this loop to run for like, let's say 100 times. So I can put 99 here. So if you put a code here, let's say for example, you say when this is ready, do a particular thing, okay, this is the loop body, all right, how long is going to loop, you can be able to put that. So this is for your looping. So if you remember what we talked about the while, let me see if I can get my while loop. Where did we use the while loop? So if you look at this while loop here now, this one works infinitely. But if you want it to work for, maybe you want something to happen for a specific number of time, you can be able to use the for loop to do that. So once you put it, you now say, okay, I want this to run just 10 times. So you can just put something like this and just plug this here and plug this one to this place, and it will just run for those number of times. Now, the thing there is that the same thing we've done. When it's done, what should it do? Okay, the same thing here. When it's complete, what next should it do? That's what you can be able to use for that. So this index is actually used when you actually use some kind of values. Not all values you're going to be using. That depending on the use case scenario you're actually working with. So I've not had any reason to use this particular one. So what you just do, connect this and connect that if whenever this particular for loop has been exhausted. So I'm going to right click again. Let me go to my flow again, and if you look at here, I have my delay, which I've already talked about, and you also have random. I like using random too. These are the ones I use a lot. So random. So if you have played my game, Tinny Fishy. So let me try and do this. So if I play Tinny Fishy, I use this random number to be able to randomize a particular thing. So you can say, let's say for example, you have different actions. Maybe the spawning of a character, or maybe character A, character B, character C. Now, and you put it, let me just give you a typical example. So let's say I do like a while loop here and put this to infinite, and let me say I put a process here. So I'm trying to explain this by giving you a typical example. So I'm going to put a delay here. So it's going to be waiting every 1 second, and after every 1 second, because if you don't put this, it's going to be too fast. In fact, it's not going to work. So I'm telling you that once this game starts, it's going to be checking again, wait for 1 second. It's going to check different options. So I can say this one print. Let me use something very simple so you understand it. So let me say print a particular value. Then another one, print another value. So I can have different variables and print. I can say print variable A, variable B, variable C. So each time, after 1 second, it prints a different variable. After each second, it prints a different variable. So you can use this, like I use this for spawning objects. So I will say randomly spawn this one, randomly spawn that one. So that's how you have the uneven spawning of the obstacles. Just like when you have something like Flappy Bird, the obstacles they are spawning when they are coming. So I'm making it to spawn randomly. So it's to spawn the one that you could pass through here. Next one will be here. You have to go up. So just like that to make it very, very stylish and unpredictable. So that's how you make the game. So random is used for that. So now one thing you have to know about visual scripting is that there are a lot of visual scripting nodes that are available. Now the question is, which one do you want to use and why do you want to use it? And as you keep on progressing, as I'm progressing, I'm also learning different ones. So someone asked for this particular video, that's why I'm actually making it. So if you are watching, you just look at the ones that you'll be using most of the times and know the ones that will be beneficial to you. So I actually had to go to the latest version of Godot. This is Godot 4.7 and the Orchestrator 2.5 release candidate, the number one release candidate. That's what I'm using here. So I didn't use this for some reasons, okay, but I'm going to be using it now to explain certain things to you. So for example, look at that thing I said. If you want to pass a variable to a property, you have to use this var string. If you don't use it, it's going to have an error. So there are some updates here. So I want you to actually explain certain things so you actually understand it. So if I right click now, you see how these things were arranged in the latest version. So you can see how much progress that the Godot Orchestrator video scripting is making. It's making huge progress. So I love it very much. So if you look at here, you have the old scripts. So if you look at here, you have things like the asserts, get start. I've not had any reason to use this, okay, yet. So, but with time, print your debug. This is just more like some advanced functions you can be able to actually use for your Orchestrator scripts. Then you have your constants. So you have your class constant, the global constant, the mass constant that you can be able to actually use, and singletons and type constants. Now, the use case scenario for these things are things that probably, as we are progressing, I'm going to be able to create a real scenarios where you can be able to use it. But I'm just going to break them down as simple as possible, as in a way that you can understand. So the dialogue, like I showed you before, you see here you have your message and your choices here. You can be able to actually use it. So this for a dialogue. If you want to use a dialogue, these are the two things. See how it has been arranged. So those flow that we'll talk about now. So you see all the flows are actually here. Both the branch for your if statement, the chance, the one that you see here calculates the percentage chance 0 to 100, takes part based on chance. So it's not like it's not predictable, all right? So based on chance, it's just going to choose any particular one. Then you have your delay, your for each loop. All these things are used to control the flow of your code. So you could say when this happens, that should happen. So this is more like if statements, or if something happens, conditionals. That's what you should call it. Conditionals. That's what this flow thing here. So whenever you want to check on your conditions, come and use anything here. Okay, so you even have your selects where you can select different things, and the sequence like I've talked about already. Then you also have your switch. So if you look at your switch, it is for switching. So when something is done, you have your default, all right? So you can have cases. So different cases that you do something. So let's say when you press a button, when this is done, whenever something is done, it should do this. So this is more like a switch case in normal programming that you can be able to use. So if you want to use switch inside visual scripting, this is actually the switch. This is the switch here. You can be able to use it. Then you have your input. So the input is just for putting your numbers. If you want to put your click or your taking inputs from your keyboard or your mouse, that's what this input is actually used for. So
So maths is used for mathematical stuff. So like I talked about when we talked about the, if you look at here, addition. So if you want to add things or subtract things, these are the things, or raise to power, or, or rad to degree, as your radiant your degree, so you can actually use that. So all the things for mathematics, your tan, your square roots, you can be able to use them here. So you can, if you want to find the square root of a number, you can come and use it here. So just know that I can't be able to actually go into start explain them one by one. So just have an idea of what they're used for. Then you have memory for freeing objects from memory or creating a new object in your memory. This one is a bit more on memory allocations and control. So if you look at here, if you select here, it will tell you free memory used by a specific object. So you can free a memory, but this is a bit more of advanced memory management that you actually use this for. Then you have your methods, study methods. So under the methods, you have ones for animation extensions. So you have your get remaining timing for animation, and it's looping. So checking for animation is looping. So all these things here, you see your audio stream. So you can load it from file. So if you are trying to play an audio, you can also load it from file using code. You can use that there. So all these things here are different methods that work on different things. So we'll have for file access. These ones are used for when you want to get a particular file. This is mainly used for when you're doing things like save and open files. These direct file access and all those things, and the file dialog here. So, but the thing you have to know about is that these are different methods used for different case scenarios. So when you're working, you want to be able to make some research. Now, if you watched the video, I made a video on how to convert your GD script to your Visual script. If you learn that video, you will be able to actually have an idea of how to be able to understand the scripts. If you're not a programmer, because primarily Visual scripting is for people who are not programmers. If you learn it there, you can actually simply come over to here and search for that particular function and know the function that will be needed for you, and then you can experiment to know the best way to connect it. So you also have your other methods for your canvas, for your nodes. So if you look at here, enter tree, exit tree, physics process, and the process, and these are the functions. These three functions are the functions like I've explained before. They are very much useful. Add child, add sibling. So you see the add child, everything is actually here. Duplicating things, finding a child, and getting a path. So all these ones are also used for methods. So I'm just trying to do a general overview here. So other ones here will have the random numbers. I think I missed one. Project here, auto load. So you can auto load now, use an auto load of already made variables that you want to use to just load something, and it begins to work immediately. So that's the auto load. So it's a different topic on its own when you want to use them. So you have the properties. So these are methods and properties, but they are all nodes. That's what you have to know about them. And then you have a random number. So like the random floats range. So you can have a range of floats that you can use. And then you have your random integer. And then you have your randomize. You can randomize your number so that it's not going to, you won't even know which one will be. So I use this a lot when I want to make things to be a bit, unpredictable. That's what makes the game fun. If you know what's going to happen, it's not going to be fun. The resource, you see the resource part and the preload. So I usually use this one. So preload is usually used for when you want to preload a particular thing, all right? So that you can be able to use it. So this is the user case scenario. I have not used it on any product I'm working on. So, but most of the things I use more of this guest resource part for my work. So over here you have your scene. So you have your instantiate, your get scene tree, and get self. You can get a particular scene itself. So whenever you're working with scene, you can come in here and get the nodes that control it. And we'll have the signal file with signal, and these are just inbuilt signals that come with Godot. You also have other signals that come with a particular node. All right, so those are the things you want. So other ones, these are other things I will have here. So I'm not going to go through. I think these are other ones that are singletons and types. So these are just general things. So the summary of all these things is that all these things we are talking about here is that visual scripting is like something you learn with time, and as you keep on going, you see different nodes and what they are used for, and you see where you can use them, and these ones I've explained, over 50 of them I've explained now. They are actually things that I use mostly for much of my work. So if you want to be able to use them, you can just go through them and use the ones that will serve you. And if you are doing something more complex, you can do your research. And if you have any question, you can put in the comments. And that's all I'm going to talk about for today. So thank you everyone for staying, those that actually stayed and those that actually passed through. So I'm going to see you in the next video. So I've answered the questions. I promised you to a live. I thought people would ask me questions today, but I didn't get any questions. So I'm just going to leave it off for today. So maybe next time we're going to have a question and answer session where you ask me questions about Godot engine, and I'm going to answer Godot visual scripting, and I'm going to be able to answer that. All right, thank you very much, and have a beautiful day or night, depending on wherever you are. All right, bye everybody. Okay, I'm just seeing this comment now. Why didn't I see that comment? Oh, my listen wasn't turned on. Okay, so you made a comment. So okay, I welcome us to Solar. Then sir, can you show that how to make a car game vehicle by node using Orchestrator? Okay, probably in the next tutorial I'm going to do something like that. So since you have asked it here, I'm going to talk about that. So but just know that the car game is a long process on its own. So I think the video I actually made, I did it's more of an add-on that was used to actually affect it. So being able to do with Orchestrator will take a bit of time. So probably in the next class we're going to talk about that. Next live stream we'll talk about that. So let me see if I can respond to that. I didn't see this. My live chats were not turned on. All right.